today I'm talking with you, Michael Kusmann, Kus. Um, I was thinking about it, and I meant to a lot of times I practice and I write down like questions I want to ask, and I didn't even get that because I was messing with my stupid mic and camera for like 7 hours. But I was thinking of you as like you're like my YouTube Yoda when it comes to marketing and YouTube ads and solar and all that kind of stuff. And you've had a ton of success. You're one of the probably the smartest people I know when it comes to YouTube and Google ads. And you're not necessarily as known because you don't really run an agency. Well, kind of. Tell us
Yeah.
about yourself, solar
Yeah.
marketing, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to, and thank you for all the kind words. I don't really know what to say. I haven't had somebody be that nice to me when it comes to marketing. Usually everybody is very cutthroat and it's a pretty competitive industry. But
It's
uh,
but that's also part of the reason why yes, I agree with you. It is a very interesting industry. It is cutthroat, and it's tough being a nice guy. And I know you're a nice guy. I'm a nice guy,
yeah.
and learn. There's a lot of lessons that can be learned the hard way. But I know because of your background and kind of how you became a marketer, you've probably avoided a lot of that. But go ahead, continue and go on.
Yeah, so my name is Michael Kusmann. I'm the first and foremost the marketing director for Empire Solar. Oh, wait, wrong side. So we're not affiliated with the national installer. Just to get that out of the way, a lot of people ask me that. But I started in solar in 2015. Before that, I was working at a mall for the Bose, the speaker company, selling speakers. And I had this guy by the name of Kenny Crosby walk in, and he was like, he worked in solar, and he was recruiting a bunch of people like just in the mall. It was a good place to recruit people. So he came in. He was visiting his roommate, who was my manager. And I'm like, what is that guy doing? And he leaves. I'm like, what was that guy doing? He's like, oh, he does door to door for solar. I'm like, man, like he seems like he really enjoys what he's doing. I mean, he was just kind of just walking around on his own time recruiting. Like, does he make a lot of money? He's like, oh no, yeah, he makes a lot of money, but it's really hard. I'm just like, it sounds better than what I'm doing now. So I like immediately I booked a call with or a meeting with Kenny, and I quit my job like a week later, and I started door to door sales. Like just dove into it. Immediately got obsessed. My first year, I made more money than I'd ever made before. I pretty much like 3x my income year one, and ever since that year, I've always added to it. And it wasn't for the solar industry. Like I don't have like a college education. I worked in restaurants. I had a food truck. Like before all of that. So like I owe a huge amount of gratitude to like the solar industry. That's why I really like to try to be vocal and try to jump into your group and some of the other groups and try to provide some value. I do try to share our stats every now and then because I do like to brag, but um, like I do really care about the industry. It's been like the last like 7 years. It's crazy. I'm absolutely obsessed with it though. And then this was 2018. I got into digital marketing. I was getting kind of fed up with some of the leads that we were getting. We were just relying on shared lead campaigns. So a lot of the times we were getting underbid by, just mom and pop shops that wanted to get in on the action, like old installers that tried to get into sales as well. So I wanted to look into my own way to generate leads. I was, at this time working for Empire Solar, and I just kind of got fed up. So I took a couple courses about, in regards to online marketing, learned lead generation on Facebook, started working for me. And then the owners, they were like, hey, like start doing this for the company. We turned like a $30 a day budget now into a almost $1,300 a day budget, depending on the time of year. And now I'm running all of our ads to generate about like 90% of our business. So
Wow.
that's like beginning to end. Like that's the past 7 years.
I mean, that's number one, congrats, obviously.
Thank you, man.
I'm sure it's a lot of pressure Because I'm always like telling people is like, you never want online to be like your main, it can be your main thing. You don't want it to be like 95% of your business. Um,
We're definitely changing that. I mean,
yeah, I mean, no, but
we've had a lot of success, but like you kind of realize quickly, like you have ceilings, especially with online marketing. Like unless you're willing to expand your business into new markets, like you can a radius is only going to reach so many people. So you can only really spend so much and optimize so much. So now we are looking at entertaining other avenues of lead generation, door to door being probably a main focus there.
yeah, for sure. I think you might have been the person that actually posted it. Was the like, hey, I'm quitting. He showed me this solar sales thing, like the meme or
Yeah,
whatever from Wolf of Wall Street, and it sounds
yeah.
like that's like basically what happened. Like you just talked to this guy, and he's like,
That's
you're what? Yeah, I'm in. I quit my job.
yeah,
I'll go work for you, and it's funny. So what year was
yeah.
that?
That was 2015.
And was that in New York?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been like strictly just selling here in New York. I haven't really dabbled in any other markets in terms of like my own personal sales. Um, but yeah, crazy.
How is it changed? Because I always like talking to people because I didn't even understand the solar industry until 2018 probably. But how has at least the market of New York changed? Because I know New York is like more progressive. It's probably solar friendly. How has it changed
Mhm.
in the last 7 years or whatever it's been?
The major shift that I've seen is obviously just when I first started, I was at Solar City, door to door. We were just pushing leases and PPAs. That's all you had. I think only like 2 years into it did we start offering loan programs. So that was a big thing to learn. That big shift was kind of a learning curve where, we had always pitched like, oh no, you don't want to own the panels. You don't want to own the panels. And then like kind of overnight, it's just like, no, you want to own the panels. You want to own the panels. So that was probably the most interesting change. The market though has kind of stayed the same in terms of incentives. Like we have a great incentive upstate in New York. It's like upfront cash rebate depending on the system size. Shading it does come into play there. But then we also have a state tax credit of $5,000, and then we also have the federal on top of that. So, and then I think down in New York City, you get a property tax abatement as well. We don't do New York City, but that's something on top of that. Like, so there's all of these incentives, and then down in New York City, people are paying like 25 to 28 cents a kilowatt hour. So you're able to save people probably like 70% in New York City, including that property tax abatement. So we're able to lean on savings pretty heavily, but I do anticipate things changing. There's new net metering policies that come into play in other markets kind of out of nowhere. At least it seems like that to me being an outsider, but that could happen over here. Um, but
Like what's going on in California right now, or at least what they're. I haven't been keeping up, so I don't know.
no,
I think there may be. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of compromise where it's not going to be as bad as everyone's talking about, but it's not going to be as
yeah,
good as it was before. But like, I mean, the what they're proposing is just crazy. I mean, it's like it's like we have our customers paying $400 a month. They're switching to solar, making or for $100 a month, and basically we can't allow that. Like no matter what, you're stuck paying us whether
yeah,
you go solar or not. Which is funny because California is seen as such like a green and progressive state,
yeah.
but it really is just all about probably lobbying and utility companies. That's why I was just interested about New York because I find it fascinating how every single market is so different.
Yeah.
So you went from tell me about your experience with shared leads because I've actually been using shared leads a bit more recently. I guess I don't know. It's age data, which is it is shared. I mean, not
Yeah.
we don't know how many times it's been shared, but it's just a completely different process than working with fresh leads. But that was it sounds like the first ones that you encountered. What was that process like? Did you have any success? Did you struggle? Like when you did find success, what were the keys to working with those?
So it's a little bit different. So we aren't doing any aged cold data. We're doing primarily just live transfers. Well, not live transfers, but just live leads. Form gets filled. They send it out to 3 to 5 different solar companies. Um, the main thing is speed to lead. You need to be calling these people right away. As soon as the lead comes in, we have like 3 to 5, like depending on what year we're talking. Back then, I think we had 5 guys in our call center. There were 5 people just from our solar company harassing these people, like right away, calling them. So you had that happening on our end, and then just multiply that by however many vendors got that lead. So you have that competitive edge or aspect to the deal, and then it's competitive all the way through. I mean, they're getting multiple quotes. Do you want to be the first in the door? And then what if you're the highest price and then you have 2 people undercut you? There's a lot of strategy that goes into kind of planning this out. Do you want to be the first in the door? Do you want to be the last in the door to try to just offer that lowest quote? Um, Sometimes that person doesn't even get in the door though. So we had to test a lot of different things to figure out what works, and that's a constantly rotating thing. We still do purchase some shared leads just to maintain the amount of volume that we want, but we still notice that these people are getting harassed by 3 to 5 different solar companies to the point where by the time we get to them, uh, there's probably some interest that's been lost, and not to mention just the practices that some of these company. I don't know if they're doing all of their marketing internally. I think I shared one with you. If you want to do like some editing and like share it with people,
Oh, um, let's see if I'll find it, and I can probably get it on the overlay actually.
on a
So
screen share.
go ahead,
It,
just keep
yeah, I mean,
talking.
it's just the particular practices that some people have to just get a lead. You're kind of hurting the salesperson once they get to the kitchen table, if they get to the kitchen table, and obviously ruling out digital. But you can't say things like, we want you to try out this new solar tech, and then in parentheses, you may pay nothing for it. I'm pretty sure that's like the copy that you're going to be
Yeah,
sharing.
I'll have it up here pretty quick.
Like,
Um,
it's like, yeah, you may pay nothing for it, maybe, but like it's not doing anybody favors except for the marketer who might get $3 to $5 leads, but are they gonna convert at a good rate? Are they gonna sit at a good rate? Are they even gonna sell at a good cost
oh
acquisition?
no, it's not. It's
Uh
too blurry. Here, I can read it though. So it says, so number one, the page is see things positively, which is it's something that I've been thinking about a lot because it's like people are treating solar like it's such a dirty word because they know a lot of people have had a negative experience with solar and don't like solar. But at the same time, it doesn't really help. I don't know. I mean, I've done tests and back a couple of years ago when leads were like super cheap, you'd be able to actually get a better ROI with pages like this that maybe were a little bit more less solar, like they kind of hide that for the most part. Yeah, he's working on solar panels, but it's see things positively. It's not viewed as a business page. But nowadays I find that kind of it just doesn't work as well because when you're paying 20 25 15 20 $25 per lead, if you're paying that much, you're not going to be able to sit with only 1 out of 20, or it's going to cost way too much.
mhm.
So here's what the ad says: can we use your home to try this new solar tech? Question mark. And then in parentheses, you may pay nothing for it. Eligible participants must be one, a homeowner, two, live in an eligible zip code, three, have some sun part of the day. Have some sun part of the day. I don't think that's a good sentence. Uh, Enter zip to see if area is eligible and ditch the electric company. And then it's a guy with a helmet, and it looks like he's a Tesla employee.
Yeah,
But it's enter zip check eligibility. So I mean that's a pretty typical
standard. It's a standard ad
it's an
with
ad that
that
worked
one thing.
well like 4 years or 3 years
Yeah,
ago or whatever. Last time I had an ad like that actually worked as well as I wanted was probably pre-COVID.
yeah, yeah, same. Where you can kind of keep it, but I mean, the problem is just like everything there is just pretty standard, pretty generic. But the you may pay nothing for it. I think we have a responsibility as marketers overall, whether you're doing lead gen for the solar company that you work for or for a client, but you have to think about that person that's going to be face to face with the homeowner, and you have to kind of tee them up as much as you can for a home run. And if you're saying things like that, all you're doing is building up barriers that it really just made up of a lack of trust between you and the prospect.
I think the
So
part that
you're
I
not doing any
actually,
favors.
I think the part that I actually dislike is the whole like, oh, test out the new tech, like the angle that's the this one it wasn't as bad, but there's some out there that like, oh, have you want to try test the new solar tech for free? Like they like, oh, be part of our study, and like they're
Yep.
hiding the fact that they are not really just going and putting solar on your roof for a year and you're going to be part of their data. Like they're, it's just a way for them to position it so that the person doesn't think that they're going to be buying it. And a lot of times too is like, yeah, if you're one of the 1% that actually are installing solar Tesla solar roofs or whatever, there are some people that actually do that in a timely manner, but very very few. And that's what kind of people think of when they think of
Yeah.
new solar tech. Most of the time, someone uses that ad and they're like, "Oh yeah, well we're gonna get some hand was up there for you," and well,
Silver frame.
yeah, and it just like you said, it builds distrust. It makes it eventually the castle of cards, the house of cards is probably going to fall down. They ask a question, they realize that, oh, you started off by lying about this, and who knows what else you're lying about. It's just not going to be a very good sale. That's the thing. Solar's so great, we don't need to do that.
Yeah,
That's
that's
one of
kind
the
of our
reasons.
job.
That's one of the reasons why I like YouTube so much, and that's why I know
Yeah.
you're YouTube guy. You've done other stuff, but you're one of the best YouTube guys I know. Why is YouTube better than Facebook?
There are more variables. I
So I'm
think
not. I'm
that
not saying it's like for sure like YouTube is better than Facebook. I'm saying
it's not.
what are the reasons that you believe YouTube is better than Facebook, and then we can talk about why YouTube might be worse than Facebook in some aspects.
The main thing that really just caused us to flock over to YouTube, which is probably the same reason that anybody else did, was just saturation on Facebook. It's very easy to at this point to just take a course and take some ad copy that was just given to you that you didn't write, and to just put that out there. Everyone's using the same ad copy, same exact funnel, and what that's going to lead to is just oversaturation of a market. Um, Anybody can oversaturate a market, and that's really what ultimately happened when you have everybody running the same exact ad for multiple different pages to the same exact audience, and then even having the user experience after the click be exactly the same, and even the framework for your calling scripts, like it's all just the same exact thing. So it's easy to duplicate. I can take someone's ad copy, I can take a screenshot of the same exact image and run that on Facebook, and pretty much have a whole ad and funnel up within a day, not even a handful of hours. With YouTube, it's a little bit more complex. You can't just like steal somebody's video, even though I literally had somebody do that on Facebook. Shout out to Dawn Hatfield, if anyone wants to look up that funny page. Um, Literally used my ad, but you can't really. But they did it on Facebook, and that's where I saw it. But you can't really easily copy somebody's. You can copy somebody's script, but you're not going to have me on the camera, and that's also I just control a lot more of the process. So I'm the guy that's writing the scripts. I'm the guy that's on camera. I'm controlling the editing process, the funnels, the ad management. So by having all of that control, it's hard to replicate that. I've even given my script that like I've tried to use for clients, and I give it to like some of the best sales guys that I know, and they can't deliver it the same way because they didn't write it. It doesn't come naturally to them. And then if you hire an actor, I mean, trying to hire an actor is pretty tough. You'll go through 100 before you'll find like one that you can actually scale and maybe beat your control. So the main reason is that there's just barriers to entry. You can't duplicate somebody's process to a T. And then just within the Google platform, there's just so many different levers that you can pull in terms of just like optimizations, different targeting, different campaign structures. You have a lot more control over demographics at this time than compared to Facebook. Whereas Facebook, you're going to get flagged for politics like without even having like like a single political word in your ad. And now all of a sudden you're going to have to run your ads to everybody that's 18 to 65 plus, that probably, 30% don't even qualify for your product. So we're able to just kind of hone in a little bit more.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I don't have the problem with Facebook isn't even like the requirements because most of the time you can get it cleared up. But the problem is when you try to like when you actually need like support to help you, you can't get support. Like entire ad accounts get shut down for no like an ad account that has no flags, no warnings for 6 months. You've been spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then for whatever reason it got flagged and they just shut it down. And you're like, oh, can I talk to somebody? And you can't get anyone to actually help you. It's awful, and that doesn't happen as much on Google and YouTube. I have seen it happen a couple times. But yeah, I what I find interesting is a lot of people I talk to, they tell me that Google they like Facebook because it's easier than Google. And I'm interested because I originally like started out with Google Ads, and I find Google to be much easier to manage than Facebook. Not talking about like the filming of the video and writing scripts and creating the content or whatever, but the actual
Uh,
like management side on the dashboard, I find Google to be easier. Which one do you think is easier, Facebook or Google?
at this point, hands down Google, but it's also because like I'm not spending so much time on the Facebook side of things. So like if I were to dive into the platform, it would probably take me like 15, 20 minutes to just be like, okay, like what am I looking at? Like they change their interface so often. So I mean that is just probably one hurdle I would have to overcome. But I'm just so used to the Google platform, and also just managing ads. I feel like the average, without getting like too techy, but like the average like lifetime of a campaign is longer on Google than it is on Facebook. At least from what I've seen. I have some campaigns. I have definitely carried some campaigns on Facebook like 1 to 2 months, but I have campaigns on the YouTube side of things that I think my longest one I launched in July.
Well, because it's different, right? I mean, it's the thing with Google and with YouTube is that you're getting specific people at the moment when they're looking for something or they're interested in learning about something. And on Facebook, even if you're targeting based on demographics, you're targeting a bigger subset of people that might be interested in it. And so eventually they're all going to see that. And it's different than on Google or YouTube, where next week there's going to be a different family that's considering it and they go to YouTube. And it's, I mean, that's the same thing with organic content, which is like a tax credit video, which I have, which I talk about a lot on here just because I think it's a good example of how you can create content and get leads. There's always going to be different people that are searching for it. I do think
More
that
people should do that, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. Like I'm shocked
well,
that more people don't do
well,
that.
I say that all the time, but then I started thinking about it. I was like, I don't want more people to do it, so let's not talk about it too
I'll be
much.
doing it soon. Don't worry.
No, no, it's just is. I think when that becomes more, I think there will be more people creating content. I think paid ads are becoming more and more expensive, where single reps aren't necessarily in the market to pay $5,000 to $6,000 a month minimum to get leads. Like there is, I think it's going to get to a point where there's going to be more people creating content, and then but I think it's going to be an opportunity for people to do it like on a more local level, where creating content for who solar information New York, frequently asked questions about going solar in New York, right? And then like you creating that video, and because those are the types of things that people do search in YouTube and Google,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to be at the top of those rankings for sure.
And you can't, just to kind of, I just threw my pen. Uh, just to kind of piggyback on that though, there is still that commonality between Facebook and YouTube where you're still not always going to be showing your ad to somebody that is currently in the market for solar or has searched particular keywords, especially on a local level. If you're running an ad nationally, you might be able to target particular keywords and placements and even topics without um, seeing any barriers. But what I've noticed, if you're doing like a 30 to a 50-mile radius and you're just saying, I want to target people that have looked up, that are looking up the keyword solar, on $100 budget, you might only get like $10 to $15 a day spent on it, just because that audience is so small. So there is still a lot of this, direct response, cold targeting approach to YouTube. So I do still kind of view it as like taking that same approach that you do on Facebook and trying to get the first 5 seconds are key. I mean, you need to have a good hook to get somebody's attention, to keep them engaged, and that engagement level is also going to determine your CPMS. It's going to determine who they're showing your ad to, and then also just one thing that I've noticed with YouTube is inherently you're going to probably get really high CPMS on the best campaigns. And for anyone that doesn't know what that means, like cost per mil is cost per 1,000 impressions. That's probably like the first determining factor within any marketing campaign that's going to determine like what your metrics are beyond that. Because if it costs $50 to show your ad to 1,000 people, that's going to work a little bit differently than being charged $15, which you can be charged on some campaigns. We tend to chase those higher CPMs, but it's still a very cold audience for the most part. We do retargeting, but I honestly don't see a lot of value in retargeting on the lead gen side. We have pretty accurate tracking where we can track like which ad got us a sale, and I am seeing higher cost to acquire on retargeting campaigns.
So retargeting using Google's partner network or on Facebook?
On Google. And
Yeah.
just with just overall, just like, I mean, like doing retargeting with YouTube ads, we've looked at the numbers, and like cost to acquire is higher on those campaigns. I don't know why, but
Well, I mean, it's probably because, I mean, we'll probably get into this here in a second, but I'm sure it's because of your like what you're targeting. Meaning, when you're first firing the ad, you're firing it on specific videos or specific topics or like whatever it is. I'm gonna try to get some juicy tips out of you here in a second, but and then retargeting is like once that person's seen it, and then they go and they start watching music videos or whatever, your ads can still pop up,
mhm.
and that is just, I don't know. I mean, it kind of defeats, not defeats the purpose, but it's just it's not. They've passed that moment when they were looking into it or they were interested, and now it's like
Mhm.
you're reminding them. But at the same time, if I'm watching a music video or a movie trailer or whatever, like I'm not in that same mood that I was in when I was looking. Oh, how does the solar rebates actually work? And so it can be different. So that's a good transition because I do want to try to get something out of you, which is when you are using Google, what have you kind of found as far as like general rules or ways to kind of target and find audiences that might be interested in solar? Can you talk about like maybe some of the obvious ones, maybe some of the ones that you found that weren't so obvious?
Mhm. I think the approach depends on, like, just to start off, and this is probably, I hope, valuable information, but it really depends on like the age of your account. With Google, I think it really matters more than the Facebook side, but newer accounts, you're going to have probably a higher cost per lead for a little bit. The algorithm really needs to learn and season like it actually is a legitimate thing. I've heard people like talk about it, but it like that it doesn't exist. It does. I mean, you do need a little bit of time for some newer accounts. If it's like an untouched market, you can rock with a new account. It's not going to be a problem. But for newer accounts, you do need to give the algorithm a more definitive idea of who to target. So you want to target particular interests, topics. If you do a long list of keywords, like, and that's called a custom intent
So what
audience.
interests, what topics? Are you targeting specific solar? Are you targeting solar companies, solar like brand? Like what are your what are the ones that if someone was going and exploring YouTube that you could
Yeah,
recommend them test out?
the best audience, and like this is something I haven't told anybody, but like one of the best audiences that you can do is it's a custom affinity audience where you're targeting people similar to those that visit sunrun.com. So you can literally go into Google, create an audience, custom audience, where you just type in sunrun.com, and you're essentially just saying, hey, go find people similar to people that visit this website. Um, it tends to give high cost per lead, but low cost per appointment.
Very good. Yeah, that's one I love those affinity audiences because that's where you're able to. I think I mean, you just have so much more ability to kind of find different pockets of people that might like your product compared to Facebook. Like you said, you have to really change up your offer because once you get your demographics nailed down, it's like you can only show it to so many people, or you're gonna show it to the same people over and over and over and over and over again, and that's where you get some of those fun comments that we get on Facebook ads.
No
I
comments.
What was that?
That's another thing I like about YouTube. You rarely get comments now with the new responsive ad setup. You do get comments from time to time, but as long as you're staying on top of it, you can kind of police them. But
And
it's
one of the things
nowhere near.
too that we look at from like the reasons I used to love Google Ads back in the day was people you can target based on what people are searching. And so like I mean this is more Google YouTube, you can do it on YouTube, but if your search term doesn't have enough traffic, it's gonna probably not really work the way you want it to.
Mm-mm.
But what I love about that is like, okay, if someone's typing in like tax how solar tax credit or solar tax questions, you could in theory have your Google ad or YouTube ad if you can figure out a way to get enough volume on search traffic to like be an ad that's specifically talking about like, oh, here's the solar tax information in New York State. And like you can kind of customize your ads more intent based than you would if you were on Facebook. And so that's when you really get to like I see people all the time that are like one of the biggest things that people are doing wrong right now is they have a general ad and they're spreading it to like all these different states and their acquisition cost isn't where it should be and they can't figure out why, and it's because they're not making it local focused. And but on Google you can even do it more than that because you can make it local focused. You could make it gender focused if you notice that for some reason this male in this video really seems to attract the ladies or whatever. And then you can also do it based on that search intent, kind of create more subsets of audiences. I do think that Google has a lot more freedom with that, and it really is it is cool. And that's kind of what you were talking about as far as more customization options and more fun for us nerds to kind of get in there and play around with. But for sure, what is your like? Walk us through what's an ad or an angle of a video ad that has worked for you, and then like what's an angle that you tried and didn't work.
So in terms of angles that work, I feel like there's really two approaches that you can take. It's either you're taking the approach where you're kind of outlining some benefits to solar, and we're trying to frame those in a way that's honestly going to be, I don't want to say slightly clickbaity, but enough to get somebody's attention and maintain it for 5 seconds. I mean, the cool thing about YouTube is you have a few different options when it comes to your hook. A hook just doesn't have to be from the script. It could be a bad camera angle. It could be a shaky camera, selfie style, like moving around. You have a lot of different variables to get somebody's attention. But when it comes to actual hooks, you either want to outline a benefit or you're trying to shed light on somebody's pain. I do think that you will get better results with the latter if you are focused on warmer traffic. Typically, we like to outline some of the benefits of solar to get people hooked, to start that cycle off. So we would talk about incentives for the particular market. That's something that's very important. Also, calling out the market. I mean, that's something that I think you can see that is prevalent in every single YouTube ad. Within the first 5 seconds, you have identified the market. You need to kind of identify your target audience, right? So if you're showing an ad in California and you were to say California homeowners, it's going to resonate a little bit more than if you were to just say homeowners. So just something specific like that, you're able to resonate a little bit more. And then, I mean, the one thing that I just constantly see people on the YouTube side failing to do is having a call to action within the right amount of time. So with YouTube, you're given 30 seconds. Somebody could watch 29 seconds of your ad and hit the skip button, and you don't pay for that impression. It's obviously going to count against you in some way when it comes to how they're going to place you. But overall, the main thing. I'm sorry, I just got sidetracked. I just got like a message. I need to turn my phone off. Um,
No worries. I
so
no, it's all good. I think call to action in 29 and the
yeah,
29-second
so
span.
just
I
to
think it is important because something that people don't
you're
realize
not
is
paying for it unless
exactly.
somebody clicks or watches 30 seconds of it. So that's the main thing. Most people are not putting that call to action before the 30-second mark. I'm seeing it sometimes at the tail end of the video. Sometimes I see it, at 45 seconds, which isn't terrible if you have a captivating ad, but there's an analytic that probably most people don't pay attention to within YouTube, and it's what your retention rate is at that 30-second mark. And I bet a lot of people probably don't know what metric or what your high water mark is, your low water mark, what would be a good ad, what would be a bad ad, just based off of that retention. And it saves us a lot of budget when it comes to testing. Just looking at that, like you spend enough money to get 1,000 impressions, you can get an idea of how that ad's going to perform just based off of that retention rate.
Yeah, and if you're paying for every person that views a video and you have a really engaging video that's 3 minutes long and people are watching the entire video but they're not clicking the button, that's just a waste of it's a waste of time. I mean, that's really what it is. But I mean, I think that kind of actually gives me another question, which is, so it sounds like you're doing kind of pretty quick call to actions. You're trying to get that call to action hopefully before 29-second mark, so that if they're not interested, they're pressing the skip button before it gets to that point where you're going to pay for it. So my question to you is, 29 seconds isn't really like the long kind of time that you usually think. Like the benefits of YouTube ads is you're able to kind of give people, educate them a little bit more on net metering or whatever it is you're talking about. And if you're doing it before 29 seconds, you're going to get people that are clicking that button probably more into like almost like a Facebook ad where like click here to get more information rather than click here to fill out a form for us.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tested a secondary like more informational video on that next landing page? What does that next landing page look like if you have a really quick call to action?
So, the nice thing about YouTube is that not everybody's going to click at that first call to action. I think that if your video is under 2 minutes, that's plenty of room to have three call to actions. One, at or around that 30-second mark, one in the middle, and then one at the very end. And then end screens are always nice too, just to literally just tell them what to do. But um,
People are dumb. Tell them what to do.
you have to. But if they're watching enough, if they're getting to that second call to action, they've gotten a little bit more information. We still run, for the most part, our traffic to just a survey. I've tested landing pages. I have a landing page that I'm working on right now that is actually beating straight to survey, but only on cost per appointment. So it's a weird thing that I'm noticing, but cost per appointment is lower through that funnel. But there's also other variables in that funnel as well.
Hopefully that's just you don't have enough data yet to like. Hopefully it'll
Oh
catch
no,
up
we've
and you'll find. Oh, really? So cost per appointment is lower with the landing page, but your acquisition cost, so your appointments are having less success with that landing page. That's fascinating to me. I that's just
there's another variable that I am going to keep to myself, but that's further down the funnel. But we've made some adjustments down the road, like page
Oh,
two,
see,
page
now you
three.
can't do that. Now my mind's now it's gonna bug me until I figure it out, and I want to text you and be like, "Oh, is it this?
Well,
Is it
that's the nice thing because now you're gonna like try like probably five things that I didn't think of, and you can tell me how they went.
yeah, right." Um, that's one of the things I think that maybe discourages people when they're working with YouTube or YouTube primarily is it is a lot more work, and that's a lot more work to produce a campaign, a lot more work to film a video, a lot more work to edit a video, to figure out what works, and that's kind of why YouTube, like you were talking about with Facebook has all kinds of people, YouTube has less people, but the reason is because of the work that's put involved. And I know personally, there's nothing that can be more frustrating than putting the work in, working, and like having this like beautiful landing page, like oh, this is gonna work so much better, and then you try it and it just fails miserably. So what is like kind of what have you found like as general rules for landing page? It sounds like you just send them straight to a survey. So I guess what about the survey? Have you found what is there any specific order that you ask questions? Is there any specific questions that you avoid? Is there a specific
Yeah.
number of questions that you find works better, or people seem to get tired by? Like, can you give us a little bit more insight on how what you know about surveys and when you get traffic going to them?
The most important thing in terms of just the landing page, because yeah, it's not just a survey. We just don't say, "Hey, are you a homeowner?" and that's the only thing that they see. But like
Surprisingly, it works sometimes.
but there, I do believe that there should be some sort of congruency between what you're saying in the ad and what you have on your landing page. That there should be some similarity in that language. The hooks should have some sort of congruency between your ad and your landing page. Then after that, the survey. I mean, I think anybody that has gotten into marketing should know at this point, especially if anybody just comes from solar with door to door, you never ask the most probing questions up front. Like if you were to get somebody interested in an appointment, you're not gonna like ask somebody right away what their credit score is before you get like some easier information to get out of them. Like you're not gonna start with the hardest question. So you're gonna get a couple easy wins. Okay, cool. Get them committed to hitting that next button. Cool. All right, now we're going to ask you for your email. Now we're going to ask you for your phone. You're going to get better conversion rates with that. So always start with the less probing questions and then go into the more probing questions. And that's the same thing when you're confirming your appointments and calling these leads, whether it's you or a call center. You need to be doing the same type of thing as well. Like I do oversee our call center as well, and we had to do a little bit of training to like kind of get that in place with some of the callers where you had them either not asking the question because they were afraid of asking the question, or they were asking the question at the wrong time, and those two things are killers, especially if this is the first point of contact for your solar company. um,
And then the other
so
thing too, with when you're asking the questions, and even when you're asking the questions in a survey, is not making sure the customer, the homeowner, knows why you're asking the question. So why is your
reframing it
yeah, it's
first.
framing it. So I mean, because that's the thing is a lot of times you even talk to people, they don't understand why you need to know about their utility bill. So you're asking them about what's your average electric bill, and they're like, why does that matter? And you don't have to like give them all the details, but you want to make sure that they have the context and the framing. So oh, we're asking your email so that we're going to be able to email you the report after the process is done. And we're asking the phone number so we can text you, or so and so can text you or call you, whatever it is you want to. Obviously, don't want to be like you don't want to lie, but you want to make sure that you're providing them with a reason so it makes it like, oh, okay, that makes sense why they need that. Because a lot of times if you just ask for the info and just go through the questions, they're going to get annoyed a little bit more because they're not talking to a person, and so even if they were talking to a person, they're still going to have those concerns. And if they're filling a form, they don't have any of those reassurances that you might be able to give them with your voice and your tone and kind of the way you're able to ask them. So make sure that you do provide probing questions, or at least context, so that they know you're asking this question. Why are you asking it? And if it's not clear why you're asking it, then they're going to be less likely to kind of keep going through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was gonna ask you another thing because I'm trying to, I haven't talked to you in a while, so I'm trying to like, steal all your YouTube secrets and not only steal them but share them freely to everyone in the world.
I'll be
Um,
doing that soon. I'll
yeah,
be, yeah.
you should, man. You should help me out with the YouTube portion of the. I'm gonna be doing some marketing stuff for the Solar Academy, so that'll be fun. I was
I'd
gonna.
love to provide some insight
You
on
could be
that.
a guest lecturer. I don't know if that's a. I'm not really going to do any lectures. My thing is that I've always wanted to. The problem I've always had with like creating, like, I don't. There's a difference between like helping and like talking and providing value and like like a course. Like a course is like you pay money for this, you're investing in this. Like how many, you're when you're done with it, you're gonna. I feel responsible that you know how to do whatever it is, and like so your success, I feel almost on the hook for it. And the thing I've always seen with at least solar is there's so many reasons why leads fail. There's so many reasons why lead gen fails. There's so many reasons why you can run a campaign and you can run the exact same campaign in one place and the other place, and this one fails for whatever reason. And the reason I never really wanted to teach people was because I feel like I don't want to teach people unless I know that they have all the other information, like they have all the other parts, or at least the access to all the other pieces and that kind of stuff. So hopefully, if we're doing it with the Solar Academy, we're going to be able to provide people with kind of more thorough, like A to Z training that they should be getting from their companies, but they're not really right now. Speaking of training, I want to hear about your training and managing of your call center, because you did mention that that's internal. That's something that I've repeatedly said is a nightmare and I never want to do it again, but I probably am going to end up doing it again sooner rather than later. What has been your experience like managing a call center, and what is the challenges that you've kind of had to overcome with that? Because I know that wasn't exactly on your radar when you kind of when you were taking over the marketing. It wasn't something that you necessarily expected to do, but now you've kind of shifted into that role. What has that been like?
I mean, it's a challenge, and I mean, a lot of the times I kind of have to put up boundaries around myself, because if I see that something could be done a little bit better, I almost instinctually just try to make it better, and that's something I noticed right away when I started generating leads for us. When we were doing things on the Facebook side, um, you know, after a while you just start noticing some trends, and the first trend that I noticed, like, oh wow, we're getting a lot of callbacks. Like this last week, we had like 10 people say call me back, and we didn't really get that many leads, and we kind of just accepted that. We're like, oh yeah, no, we'll call you back. um, so I'm like, oh well, we can maybe try to train these guys a little bit better to just, that's kind of a smoke screen, like just try to plow through it. It takes 2 minutes to set an appointment. If they picked up the phone, they've got a second, right? um, so that was the first thing. But I mean, over time, I mean, we've been able to lean on a lot of technology. I mean, when we first started, we were doing everything on Google Sheets. That's how, I mean, if you remember, I mean, that's how we first started talking, because I was just like, hey man, like you seem to know this Go high level thing, and I don't really know what to do. So
You mean it
yeah.
puts their information in a pipeline for you?
What?
What? That's
What?
crazy.
We can call them from the computer? Oh
Oh
my
man.
god.
Hey, no, but dude,
Oh.
some of the best people I've ever worked with use Google Sheets. It doesn't like it's just uh I saw a comment from Jake Hess actually a couple days ago or something, but someone asked him about like software, and he's like, I don't use software. It's a waste of. Basically, he said it's like a waste of time and money. He didn't say that. I don't know what he said. Basically, what he said was it's not. A lot of times, it's more complicated than it needs to be, and it costs money, and it's just easier to not use software. And 100%, I'm like example A. I have probably. I don't even think I could find all the softwares that I have access to. Like if I wanted to, I don't even have them organized in a list or anything. I just have, I love lifetime deals. I love testing out new softwares. I love testing out all this different stuff. And but at the same time, it is a waste. Like you always want to find what's going to work for you and your team. And a lot of the people that I've seen that are the most successful, they use a Google Sheet. They have their phone number. They call the person on their personal cell phone, and they crush it, because it's not the software, it's the fact that they actually do what they need to do utilizing the software to kind of get those results. But yeah, go high level, man. It's a great little piece of art in a way. Normally, I actually am surprised at how well they've been able to kind of grow and do so much. Because a lot of times when you see softwares that try to do too much, they end up kind of like miserably failing at least half of the things. But Go High Level is definitely doing a good job still, in my opinion. What's your like hiring philosophy? Are you in charge of hiring the call center reps? And I would hope that you are. I would assume that you are. Are you in charge of that?
I mean, yes and no.
You play a part in
Part,
it?
I play a part in it for sure. I mean, I did just recruit our manager, but he was a friend of mine. He was working at another company in their call center, and just kind of nabbed him. But um, the nice thing about our call center, though, is that we've had the same guys for years. Like no joke. Like the our retention is very high. It's because we pay really well. Our best caller, we give all of our callers the opportunity to make six figures.
That's awesome. That's incredible,
So
actually. Congrats.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, do they all hit it? No. But we also promote from within as well. So I mean, we reward that hard work. Like our old call center, we had to replace our call center manager because we moved him into sales. He was crushing it. He'd been crushing it for years, and that position was holding him back. And now he's in sales, totally crushing it. He's one of our top reps, and it's pretty stellar to watch that. But for the most part, I mean, I don't really have to be involved with that. Most call centers are revolving doors.
100%. I mean, most
Yeah.
sales organizations are revolving doors. And I think
Yes.
appointment setters or call centers are even revolving faster than salespeople are,
Yeah.
because people don't maybe don't understand the job. People think it's easy and it's not. They don't get the training that they. I mean, there's a billion reasons why, but that's incredible that you guys have actually kept. Not only that, but that you've paid. Because I'm a big believer that if you want, I'm a big believer at one that the appointment setter is a much more important part of the process than a lot of people in this industry give them credit for. It's not something that you're going to easily be able to just outsource to someone that's has an accent or that's overseas or that's $2 an hour or whatever it is. It's not something that's easy, because a lot of times that's where you get people that book appointments, but the appointments are questionable at best, and you get those show rates. Fascinating, man. So what else, like what other, you pay really well. What else do you do to keep your appointment setters happy?
Bonus. I mean, it's they get paid pretty well because we offer pretty hefty bonuses. Without, I wouldn't give away our pay structure,
That's
but
fine. And then,
um,
so, I mean, but pay is
but
awesome.
no, but our the bonuses. I mean, we do like we bonus on sits. We care about sits. That's the most important thing, because if you have your call center focused on just getting good quality sits, you're not going to get too much crap. You're not going to get a whole lot of cancels. Your sit rate's going to be high, and then as long as you have your sales team dialed in, which the owners of our company does a very good job of making sure those guys are constantly dialed in. It just works seamlessly together. So we really like to emphasize like the quality sit more than anything.
And then what kind of training do you guys do? Is it like, do you guys have weekly meetings, monthly workshops? Is it the onboarding process just extensive? Like, how does what has your, because you have that lower churn, I assume you're able to invest more time and resources into people.
It's honestly, it's way more hands-on coaching, like one-on-one, since we're a small team. Like we have three guys in our call center, like hammering like almost 1,000 leads a month. It's pretty crazy. We have a good process in place, but it when we bring somebody new on, the most important thing that we really try to find, like my ideal candidate for somebody in our call center, is a rep from another company who maybe didn't do that great, who maybe didn't have the resources to do that great in sales. So, hey, let's take a step back. Let's really refine your craft. Let's focus on the fundamentals, get you really good at that. Your tonality on the phone, like that's a very big presence. Like focus on that. Get a good script down. Think about like, get good at thinking on your feet. If somebody, picks up the phone and just sounds a little angry, you're gonna have to have a different tone, right? Um, Learn all those new things, and then like let's make you 60K, 70K, 80K, then let's move you into a sales position where you're going to make six figures.
I love it, man. I think it's something I've been talking about. I don't know. It's kind of been like the theme of the last 3 or 4, 5, 6 months. Has been I kind of see the solar industry going into a place where a lot more companies are taking more in house, more marketing in house, more calls rather than using a call center, rather than outsourcing a lead gen company. I think the smart thing as lead costs go up is going to be bringing more of that internally, because then not only are you able to reduce your costs, but you're also able to provide more value to your employees. And I think you and your company, I think what you guys have done is pretty incredible. And I think all the top and the best companies that are kind of successful and at least are dominating, or they're doing very very well in their little submarkets. I think that they are doing that, and it seems like you guys definitely are crushing it up there in New York. So, what about? Are you guys doing all in person? Are you guys doing any virtual?
No virtual.
No
So
virtual.
every yeah. So I mean, we do get sometimes we get a little bit of pushback with the whole masks. Here in New York, it seems kind of 50-50 in terms of like some people are wearing masks, some people aren't wearing masks. Most people are wearing masks right now when you're out in public. So like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, we started getting a little bit of resistance from people. Like we had one or two sales guys showing up, like just assuming like, hey, like everything's fine, like no mask. So now we're just going, hey, let's just show up with a mask, and if like just ask, hey, do you want me to wear this? Cool, no, then it's mask off. But yeah, we are 100% in person.
Have you guys
Um,
tried
I
virtual?
I mean, when COVID first hit, we kind of stumbled a lot. Like I think it's such a different medium. So I mean, some of our sales guys did okay, but I mean, also during the first like couple months of COVID, I mean, we did scale budget back as well, so we weren't really able to
Oh man, you
see
missed
how
out
how it
on
would work.
you missed the gold mine, man. Everybody
I
scaled
would
it back, and that like 2 months right after COVID hit was like, oh, I think Facebook's broken. They're not charging what they're supposed to be. It was awesome, but it obviously you're doing even better because you're crushing it now as prices are skyrocketing and all that kind of stuff.
I like it's kind of weird. One thing that I will say about the Google platform, at least what I've noticed in my account, um, higher lead costs seem to be the direction that things are going, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Um, because I'm noticing in terms of cost to acquire, like our cost to acquire year, like if we're looking at 1 month versus, because now we've been doing this 18 months, we're able to look at LY versus this year and be like, oh, did we do as good? Wow, like it's actually pretty much in line. Our cost per lead ended up going up, but our cost per appointment is pretty much in line, and then cost to acquire is honestly a hair less.
So
So
throw out some numbers, just like an example. It doesn't have to be the exact numbers, but
so so I tend to tolerate a cost per lead up to $100, and that's because since we have our call center in house, I have data just sending back to Google when an appointment's booked, so I know what campaigns are giving me a good cost for appointment. So if I say a campaign's giving me $100 leads, but I'm getting a 50, 55, sometimes 60% booking rate on that campaign, I'm going to let it ride all day. I'm going to scale it. But I've also seen other campaigns where I've got a $35 cost per lead and a cost per appointment at like $500. And a lot of people are going to chase that campaign and not get the best results, especially if you're a marketer doing it for a client where there tends to be a lot of disconnect anyway. I do see a lot, like you're kind of saying, like taking this in house. I think a lot of the companies that are taking this in house and investing in the right type of attribution software, like those are probably the ones that are gonna be able to tolerate these higher lead costs.
yeah, I think you have to, as costs go up, you have to be able to track little details that you can't even get from the dashboards of Facebook and Google. And you have to
And
be
it's
able to,
gotten terrible just on those dashboards over
yeah,
the
and not to
past.
mention I can't, that's the one thing I hate about Google is their conversion tracking. Because like it's like, oh yeah, number one, we don't even like the numbers are never right, and then number two, sometimes it's like they take like 3 days to like show up, and I'm like, why? I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like you can record the click instantly, but when my little conversion thing fires, I can't find out about it until a couple days later. So you have to set up outside tracking, and that is just so fun. So no virtual, you're doing all in person. You guys have appointment setting in house. You guys are crushing it up in upstate New York. It's really awesome, man. I had a couple of questions and now I don't remember what they were.
We maybe talk about some other markets. We are testing other markets. That's something we could talk about maybe.
Testing. Oh, you want to what? So, um, I always love talking about other markets. I find it fascinating that every state is like different. Speaking of which, I just moved to Alabama and there's like no solar here. So it's
Let's get on
interesting.
it.
Well, I don't know. I That's one of the things I love about my job is I can marketing. I can do everything virtual from a computer and all that kind of stuff. Like
Yep.
I was in Utah. I sold a few deals in Utah, but I wasn't like I didn't need to be in Utah even for those deals. They were just people that I just called on the phone, and maybe I went to their house one time. And but yeah, it's just interesting to me how it's so different in state to state. It's very odd. It's very cool because then you start to realize that like there's a lot of different things like that other than solar that's different in every single state. But it's just fascinating to me. So, what other states are you looking at other than New York?
So we're not really super interested in expanding Empire Solar to many other markets because we do all of our own installs. So it's kind of a big undertaking to, be like, okay, like let's go to Florida and hire an install team. It's a lot of work, and we're not super interested in doing that. We just want to dominate our market. So like back in like April, May, we started just piloting for other solar companies in other markets. What we've noticed, as long as a solar company has the in-house call center or is following up with the leads properly, we've had like success in every market that we've launched. We've done many of the markets here on the East Coast. As far as Texas, we are interested in some of the ones out west, but we've noticed really good results for. I guess you could call them like clients. We have people that we're running ads for right now, but we are interested in taking on a few others. We'll probably cap it off at like, I don't know, like 20 clients. Because this is like my main thing is Empire Solar. I'm the marketing director here. It's my main source of income, but it's pretty easy to manage multiple accounts. I have a pretty structured day. I manage my accounts my first half of the day, so I could probably take on a handful more. So we are doing that in some other markets. We're setting up like an agency. Get my finger quotes in there, but
I'm really growing to hate that word agency.
I don't like it either because honestly, I do think that there should be a consulting side to it as well. I don't think
Yeah,
a
I also
lot.
don't like the word retainer. Oh, I hate the word retainer actually.
I just call it a fee.
Well, management fee doesn't sound any better either. Because I feel like fees are things that you like associate with like paying but not really getting. Like it's like a fee, like on top of
Mm,
it, like an activation fee or whatever.
yeah.
No one likes fees, but yeah, it is interesting. It's funny agency because like you said, I think I mean, like I said, like you said, but that we are going from a place where I think there are a few agencies out there that are crushing it. They're doing really, really well. But they are kind of few and far in between for how big of an industry solar really is. And more companies are bringing it in house, and that's where you are going to be able to get not only get your costs down, but I mean, just kind of provide a better service. Because like one of the things that I was hoping to do with a past company was like, I mean, if you think about it from a marketing perspective, rather than paying someone 1,500, 2,000, $2,500 a month, why not pay that marketer a little bit more, maybe twice as much, a little even more than that. But then they're solely focused on you, and they're going to be able to give you the focus and kind of what a company might want or need. Because a lot of times you see with those agencies is you get people that are managing too many accounts, and like you said, oh, managing accounts is easy. Not for a lot of people. Like even I don't think I would say it's easy, but I'm not as much of a stud as you over there, Mike. Um, that's it's interesting. So but the reason what I was trying to get to, and I did so miserably, was you are a very great person to work with because you're a solar guy, you're a solar company, you figured out lead gen on your own end, and now you're helping people to do it in their markets and in their places, and that's kind of backwards. A lot of people go that are lead gen people go into lead gen and they don't understand solar after. So I think what you offer and your perspective and your ability to say like, look, we're doing it right now is better than 90 9% of people that are probably spamming inboxes as we speak. So are there any specific states, or like what if someone was interested in talking to you and learning about possibly working with you, like what's the best way for them to reach you? Just on Facebook?
Yeah, just on Facebook. Just shoot me a DM, slide into the DMs like us marketers do.
Oh,
But seriously, there's just something. If you are a marketer and you're doing that, like just run ads. You should be able to do it. Please.
it is interesting, right? It's well, I mean, I respect it to a point. Yeah, I think there is a
It's
kind of.
it is door knocking. Like
I mean, it
it is
is,
so
but it's
similar to door
not.
knocking.
It's not. It's door knocking without the discomfort of door knocking, and that's the whole point.
What I don't understand is like just provide some freaking value up front. Like if somebody just like slid into my DMs and said, "Listen, this is what I do. I figured you'd get some value from this," and send me like a video that actually has some valuable information about your
Mhm.
company, what you do differently. That's a much better way to go about it. Hey, sorry to bug you. Saw that you're in this group too. I help people in that field. This is how I help people. Just try to be a little bit more human about it, but it's all just you can't because it's all just copy and paste BS.
Well, it is, and that's the thing too. Is like you alluded to. It's number one. If you were a really great marketer, you wouldn't need this. Number two, if you don't have any clients currently, if you have clients currently that are happy, they should be able to bring you more clients. So if you're looking, why are you looking? And then if you don't have any clients and you're just pretending, then you should really just say, hey, I'm willing to like help you for free or work for free, and I want you to be my first success story. I want to be able to do that. And no one's going to say no to that. Obviously, they might say no to like, no, I'm not going to give you ad spend. But as far as like I am somebody that is willing to help you and you're interested in trying it out, like I don't want to pay myself, but can I use you as a testimonial? Can I use you to get references and referrals? And
Yep.
that's the right way to go about it. And that's the way that I did it. I like the video, like you said, sending someone something of value. Like an example I used to do when I was a web designer was I would send people basically like a video of me actually like walking through their website, like okay, like or SEO for example, like going through like okay, I'm attached to this email is a SEO report, and you can just see like these are some quick things that you can quickly fix to improve your SEO. And like if you do these things, it'll only take a few minutes. And then there's a bunch of other stuff too that might be able to help you. But even if you just do these things only, you're gonna start to see those rankings go up a little bit. And
How
then
invasive is that?
what?
How
Invasive?
invasive? It's not invasive at all, but compared to just sliding in, be
Well,
like,
but see,
could you handle another 30
it
installs
is,
a month?
but it is time consuming, and that's the thing, right? People, that's the reason people are on Facebook rather than YouTube. People don't are afraid of putting in the time or putting in the work. They'd rather just copy and paste, and providing value in any way. Like it doesn't even have to. If we're talking about leads, it's saying, hey, here's a PDF I made that talks about setting appointments or whatever it is, showing that you actually know the industry and understand that you have some value to provide. That's the other thing too. Sometimes people say, "Oh, provide value," and then they just go and find like some document that they downloaded and it's not theirs, and they just share it with people. And I don't know, it can be a little awkward at times. But yeah, I think I just like shining lights on people in the solar industry, specifically marketers, because that's you notice with a lot of the questions. I number one, I'm like professional curiosity. I have to know because I want to destroy you. It's like, what can I? How is he doing this? What can I do to beat it? Like, how can we be better? How can I be better than him one day? And it's I have that professional curiosity, but I know for sure you're legit. I've seen your accounts. You're one of the best marketers in solar that I know, and you're also one of the few that are not running an agency, more or less. You're kind of doing some now, but you're looking for people to help, and anyone that has maybe never tried YouTube ads or has wants to just work with you and learn from you, you'd be a great person to put them in contact with. So, one last question for you. What role does text and email play in your guys' follow-up sequences? So are you guys doing are you using text and email for reminders? Are you using it for activation for people that don't reply? How is that? Is it automated? Is it kind of systemized? Just a little bit like that, because that was a question I had earlier that I forgot. So I wanted to throw it in
Yeah.
there real fast.
So we have a 5-step nurturing sequence for warm leads. So we classify anything as a warm lead as 48 hours or older. Up until day 7, that's when we consider it going cold. So we have that. That's one nurturing sequence. I have a separate nurturing sequence for people that book their own appointments. And then we also have confirmation texts that we do. And then every once in a while, I'll throw out like a cold blast, like one text to, our entire list of cold leads.
Give me a cold blast text.
I'm not, because I stole it
Come
from you.
on, man. Which one? Have you given up on going? No, that was one of them. That's the
Yeah,
from Never Split the Difference.
never split the
Have
difference.
you ever or have you given basically like have you given up on lowering your electric
Yeah.
bill or whatever? That's a good one. One of the ones I like recently that is I think I stole from somebody. I don't remember who though. Is basically just have you gone solar yet? Like have you made the switch yet? Have you whatever it is? And because
I'm
the
writing
reason
that down.
well the reason is because it's a yes or no question. It's not like an invasive question. Like it's not something that they should having any anxiety about saying no.
Correct.
I haven't made the switch yet. But I like that because I'm able to kind of automate our like not necessarily automate. I have templates, so I know if they say yes, I send them this. If they say no, I send them this. So that's one. Typically, it's just hey, this is Kyle from Clean Energy Program from Measure Solar, whatever your company. Have you made the switch yet? Happy New Year. I just wanted to check in and see if did you ever make the switch to solar? And when you do that, it's like, no, I haven't. But then they give you the reason why they haven't. Or yeah, I already did. And it's like, okay, I'll take you off my list. So yeah, they can lie about that, but it's not exactly. They don't have any reason to lie at that point because you haven't really dug in deep yet. So that's one that I've
We
been using that I've
we
had
will
fun with.
test it. We will test it, and I'll let you know.
Oh, you should, dude.
But
You should test things. That's one of the things I wanted to do on YouTube was like do tests and like record, like document it and like post the video itself. Like what works better, this text message or this text message, and like have them go to war or sending a text message for sending a meme.
I've been wanting to test the send some memes, but I don't know.
It's different. It's because I feel like memes would work really really well with a small subset, but most of the time we don't have the data to only like you can't send a 50 like if I sent my dad or someone my dad's age a meme, I would probably never have their business ever.
Yeah, yeah, or it just goes over their head, like
Yeah.
I feel like memes also. I mean, we did memes on like Facebook when we were running Facebook ads, like Facebook, Instagram, doing a lot of memes, and those we would get like a good low cost per lead, but they tend to be lower quality. We noticed with those at least, the memes that we were testing. But to also answer the two, because you had two-part, you were saying text or
Yes,
email.
sorry. I apologize for
We
getting off topic.
no, dude, I'm the king of going off on a tangent. But yeah, we actually don't. I don't do any email follow up. That is something where I do see opportunity, because I mean we've got tens of thousands of leads, like at this point, but I don't really know if I believe in it. Like it is so much work to get like such a little bit out of it. I just don't know
But
if it's
if you have the
the juice
software
worth
and
the
like the
squeeze.
systems, it probably wouldn't be. It's not really that much work.
I'm thinking more so from a copywriting standpoint, because I do think that if you're going to really go that route, you have to hit these people daily. Like
See, I
you
would
infuse
disagree.
really.
I would think that like you can hit them. You can be consistent with it if you're like providing them with value about like updates
Yeah.
on solar and stuff. But a lot of times too, it could just for some reason there's some people that just that read and reply to emails that don't answer their phone or reply to text messages, and it could just be as simple as like the same like, hey, this is Kyle. I know we spoke last year. Did you ever make the switch to solar? Question mark. And you can surprisingly get some replies to that that you might not have gotten otherwise. But being able
We'll
to do
send
that
an
at
email.
scale is the one that
Yeah.
requires, like, obviously requires software before you get banned.
Yeah, software, and then I just even just from a copywriting standpoint, because I do think that you're going to have a good offer in place for those emails. We do send an email, like a very templated email out. If we get a bad phone number, we'll be like, all right, like no connection, send an email. But that's really the furthest that we get. I haven't really looked at the stats on like an actual response rate on those, because those are manual, but um, it hasn't been to the point where I've been like, we need to send more emails. Um,
I just had another question. Your regarding your appointment setters call center, I'm assuming they're the ones that are getting to the bill. Is that correct?
we try to get the bill up front, but we don't put as big of an emphasis on it as some other companies will. I know, if you have particular design softwares like Solo, it makes a lot of sense to have that bill up front. Um, but our guys actually build out the design and quote the system in real time, just measuring everything out on their own, like our sales guys. So it hasn't really been that big of a focus on us. I personally think it's good to get the bill because you can see the level of commitment from the homeowner. If they're going to send the bill, then it's probably going to be a more top tier appointment that you should probably give to a top tier closer. Luckily, we have nothing but those, but just in
Yeah,
case they're watching.
I think I think the bill, like you said, it separates like top tier prospects from not as enthused prospects. And I think back to like the call center, which is number one, I think you're like the way you guys are doing it with a small team. I think that's the 100% the right way to do it. And then because of that, you can focus on higher quality leads and you're not making tens of thousands of phone calls every single day or whatever it is. But a lot of times you see those lower call centers, I think they get their information, they ask them the questions like a robot, they get the appointment on someone's calendar and the person doesn't show up. And
Yeah.
so, but making sure that your appointment setters, like if you are able to either incentivize them to get the bill, similar to how you incentivize them if they sit, you're able to focus they're able to focus their energy on that task, and that's going to get a higher quality appointment. And then if you're able to tie their income to that or their bonuses to that, that makes a lot of sense in my book. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to me how few. I really don't find getting the bill all that challenging. Like once you have them and you're asking them these questions and you're getting to it, I find it a lot easier than a lot of people make it out to
It's
be.
really what you say. Like the best tip that I ever got, like when I was on the doors, was from our director, this guy Gilles Sutherland. Few people will probably know that name, but he's an absolute badass. But he would tell us like, all right, like the best way to get the electric bill. You've gone through the whole thing. You've set the time. You say, hey, do you want, just real quick, do you want like the 2 hour presentation or the 30-minute presentation? And most people are going to say they want the 30-minute presentation. You say, cool. In order for me to do that, I'm just going to need a copy of your electric bill. And then you just go into the whole spiel. You're giving them like some sort of a benefit, like, hey, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. It's going to go very, very quickly if you just give me a copy of the electric bill. If they're a crazy person that says, hey, I want the 2 hour one, it's like, okay, so it seems like you like a lot of information. So in order for me to get you all that information, I just need a copy of your electric bill. So either way, you're framing it with the same end result, but that has helped us, at least with the reps that stick to it. It's just been one thing that I do have a hard time with, like with the call center. Like I'll put the emphasis on them, be like, hey guys, try to get the electric bill. But since our sales guys kind of have it dialed in, it just hasn't really been a point of contention yet. But I do see what you're saying in terms of trying to, I mean, yes, they get more bought in, and it's just better to be able to identify those higher intent appointments.
Yeah, I think, and once again, it's all about the having the steps and the questions that you ask, but asking them in a way that you kind of control the outcome. And so,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I was thinking it might be that cold text message that I said I've been having success from. It might be from Brent Hadaway. So if it is Brent, thank
Mm.
you, because I think he had a sequence that he like shared with people when I interviewed or whatever. He's like, you can like text this number, and I remember I did it, and I think I don't remember, but I believe I at least used it or I've used it as inspiration. It was like, okay, asking him, have you gone solar yet? Yes or no? No, I haven't. Oh, okay. Basically assuming like they're still interested, and then you ask them, well, I want to send you your solar savings report. What's the best email for me to send that to? and like they give you the email, they confirm their email, or you confirm, or if you have their email, you say, is this still the best email for you? And then at that point, when they say yes, you're like, great. Now for me to send that to you, all I need is a copy of your
Mm.
utility bill. And then do you get them in the mail or on the computer? Or are you going to text it? Would it be easier for you to text it or email it to me? And I remember, I'm pretty sure that is, I don't want to say it. Anyone reach out to Brent Attaway? He has the magic cold text sequence. It's awesome. I'm pretty sure at least part of it is something like that. But I remember I started playing around with that, and I started having people sending me bills like that. I didn't even I couldn't even get them on the phone, but I just started texting them, and like through the sequence, I was able to get people sending me bills, and it was pretty awesome. But once again, control the way you're asking questions, and then when you know what their answer is going to be, you're able to kind of move them to the next step regardless. But you do it in a way that is skillful. Hopefully, we can start getting more bills. But interesting, man. So no email, which doesn't surprise me. I don't know anyone that's if there is anyone out there that's like, oh man, I get 30 deals a month from email, let me know. I want to talk to you.
Me
But
too. I'll hire you.
because that's the other thing too, is even just sending email, like the deliverability numbers suck. Like the amount of people, like, number one, if you can even get to their inbox, they
Yeah.
barely read it. But then
Yep.
like you can't even get to their inbox anymore because so many people are emailing, and there's so much spam protections and all that kind of stuff. It really is nuts. But there probably is some deals there that are waiting for us to email them. We'll have to
And
do an
maybe
experiment
they'll
together,
get
and we'll
one
record
day.
the video.
I would love to do that if you want to work on a maybe 7-step nurturing sequence for
No, oh, no,
reactivating
no,
some
no, no,
cold
no,
stuff.
no, no. I don't
I
know
did
about that.
something
That sounds like a lot of work. I was gonna think like, if we made a video like, oh,
one
today we're
email.
gonna close a deal from only emailing.
I did
Oh,
an email, like I did a cold email blast just to like mess with it, like Q4, and I think we had 3 to 4 people opt back in, and we did get a sale, but it was like a 4 kilowatt.
that's okay. I don't want to. Okay, first of all, size isn't. It isn't just a number. Okay, like this applies to many things in life, but four is plenty big. Whether it be
Woo!
whether it
All
be
right.
kilowatts or inches, it's not. We don't discriminate based on the size. It's always only a four. God. Oh man.
Oh shoot.
Okay. Well, with that said, it's
Yeah,
time for
yeah.
me to let
On
you
that
go. Hey
note,
man, I appreciate your time, dude. I like talking
yeah.
to you. It was fun to record this time, and I asked you a bunch of questions. And anyone who's interested and working with a legit marketer and maybe testing out YouTube, please reach out to Mike. He's a good dude, and he'll help you and work together to make it work. Because that's definitely for sure what they got going on. Is they make it work. They're working hard, and thank you for your time, man. And we'll do it again sometime.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to be back, man. I had so much
Okay.
fun.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Kyle Thumb. Thank you so much for watching this solar growth clip from the Solar Growth Podcast and my interviews with solar professionals. I greatly appreciate it. If you're watching this, please like, comment, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate every new subscriber I get, and it helps me to create more content and grow myself in solar, as well as help as many solar professionals grow in solar as well, so that we can make this industry a much better industry that's going to have a much bigger impact. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you again soon.